Hey everyone, this is Ryan B with Practical Forex Trading. This is your weekly analysis for euro versus the dollar. So the European euro versus the US dollar. The date is Sunday, May 3rd, 2020, 11:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to stay up to date with all of our videos, make sure you click that red subscribe button on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. So we see here that my sentiment is bearish with stops at 110.50, so $1.1050. And what I mean by stops at is essentially that's what reverses my sentiment. If we see daily candles closing above the 110.50 mark, then I'm going to be thinking twice about my bearish sentiment. But the reason why I'm, just from a broad sense, before we apply our pivot points, the reason why I'm bearish in general is because here we can see our long-term descending bearish triangle. Then we had crazy market volatility, which just essentially put a giant whipsaw in the chart, which is then now averaging out. But as you can see, it hasn't changed the main overall trend. I mean, this would have been a trend breaker if price held above it, that day. But then the following day, candles recessed, giant pipes here, sell continued. So I'm bearish. Now price is moving above the fast daily moving average, so we could see prices test this $1.10 mark more this week, right? So we're kind of up at the ceiling here along this range. And really, it's only been one day. We can see short term we had some pretty bullish candles, so potentially could hold again, or try it again. But if tested and this holds, this is your next sell. So let's go ahead and add our weekly pivots on. Okay, so our pivot is 109.36. Let's go ahead and zoom into our 4-hour. Okay, so 109.36. That's our weekly pivot point. So it's almost like a weekly average. At some point, price will probably come down here. So even if price came down here, we might see another test again after price touched that of the $1.10 mark. So where's our first resistance? R1, 110.63. Okay, so right there. Let me go ahead and make this blue. So prices could ascend all the way up there, but then that would be a really good sell. And I've started to think about support and resistance in the fashion of if price tests it or comes at to it or above it, then I'm going to sell it. So I used to be where I'd put my stop below resistance and then put my order right below resistance, put my stop right above it. But what I found happening was that price would, market volatility would push it through there, clip out my stop, but then actually do go ahead and fall, like we see here. So instead, I started doing the opposite, where instead of placing my orders in front of the resistance, I placed them behind it with my stops well above the next resistance, and had a lot of success with that. So R2, 111.45. Right there. Okay, there's our second resistance. As you can see, that's our last big previous high. And then R3, I think it's going to be off of our charts just because we're on the 4-hour, but that's okay. Let's focus on R1 and R2 right now for the week. Here's our pivot. What's S1? S1 is 108.54. Right there, support 1. And it looks to me like sideways time. Looks like we could see some sideways action between the 110 mark and the 108.54, which is essentially what happened last week, though we did see a dip below, and then price moved back in. So now we can see where this little sideways range might be some good range trading this week. S2, 107.27. So that's our last low. All right, so that makes sense. So these pivot points are calculated by last week's candle, right? Price action, highs, lows, close. Gives us our weekly pivot points. And as you can see, they're pretty almost exactly accurate with previous highs and lows. So this kind of gives you your roadmaps for the week. Typically, price will move towards support or resistance and then return to the pivot point a lot of times. or it'll go to the pivot point, then move to support and resistance. So now I was talking about the short term, we might be seeing more testing of $1.10. This hourly is in a pretty steep, severe angle. So the first thing that needs to happen is the 5-minute trend needs to break down below this. See another test of the high. 15-minute trend needs to break, then the hourly, etc., which then pans out into the larger trend. All right, everyone, have a great week trading. Hope to make lots of pips.